there, and welcome. Well, here we are starting a new week together, and I'm very excited about that. I'm out here ringing my little school bell, and I finally come into a subject that I would love to discuss with my brother John, because we never did, and yet it's a really important subject for teachers to examine and consider, and it's one they have to deal with quite a bit. I'm talking about cheating. Cheating was mentioned in my methods training as a teacher, but not very much. And we were never told the best way to address cheating. And for that reason, I suspect a number of teachers are out there struggling against it and thwarted by it. And so I want to start my discussions about cheating and dealing with cheating with an ethical statement. One day in one of my classes, a student said to me, "If you're not cheating, you're not trying." And I was quite taken aback. And so I said, "No, that's not true. The moment you've cheated, you've lost." We were talking about games. And what I didn't realize is I had waded into a dispute with another person who worked at the school without realizing it. I thought the student said that from his own heart, but what he was doing was quoting this other employee. And my contention was, the minute you cheat, you lose. It doesn't matter how the scoreboard reads it when it's done. By playing the game, you made an honorable statement that said, "I will abide by the rules of the game." And the moment you cheated, you left the game, you forfeited it, so you lost. It doesn't really matter what the scoreboard says. The reality is, by cheating, you lost. Now, because I had that response, I think there were things that were spread around by the students, and it wasn't, the thing is, the students were discussing it among themselves, and they had feelings about this issue of cheating. Believe me, students have very clear ideas about cheating, because even little children will object when somebody cheats against them. Especially if it's somebody they're supposed to trust. They will object pretty strenuously to that. So today I'm just going to make the argument that I made to my students about cheating when I was teaching. And here's the argument. Academic cheating is bad economics. Let me explain. Education costs. It costs. It costs money, and it has other costs as well. The community pays for the school, and the intention in the community by paying for the school is to produce a populace that is productive, imaginative, disciplined, and capable. When a student attends a class, that student is also paying for the class. And students might say to you, "Well, no, public school is free. I don't pay anything." But they do. They pay with their precious time. And nobody who knows me doubts that I believe the most precious commodity of all is time. So a student who spends time in a class and then cheats on the assignment is actually wasting time. And by wasting time is failing to benefit from this thing they're paying for with their life force. If a student is learning to write in a class, and that student goes out and plagiarizes and turns in plagiarized work, in order to earn a grade, that student acquires no benefit from that, and thereby wastes their time and the teacher's effort to instruct. Students have been cheating on assignments forever. When I started school, when I started writing for grades at age 14, I had to use a typewriter for my final drafts. A typewriter and something called whiteout that students don't even know what it is anymore, but it was a little paint that you painted on the typed pages over letters that were mistyped. So you drafted everything by hand first and then typed it up. Even at that clunky and at that time low-tech way, which at that time I should say that low-tech way, which at that time seems, current, you could plagiarize, you could cheat. Because there was so much written volume of stuff that the teacher didn't know what sources you were using unless you gave them credit. And we were required to give our sources credit. It was by giving the source credit that you didn't cheat. You actually referenced what source you got that information, that idea, or that reflection from. So students have been able to cheat on papers long before AI. They could cheat by having other students write their papers. They could pay students to write their papers, which is not just bad economics, but stupid economics. So now that AI is present in everyone's life, many people who were depending on computer programs to flag plagiarism and flag cheating are feeling disarmed. But you're not truly disarmed. The reality is, you know whether or not a student has genuinely worked on something if you've been teaching them the writing process and learned about their thoughts and ideas. When you're reading the paper, if that's not them, it's gonna be obvious to you. And thereby, you can find ways to deal with that cheating. And I'm gonna make some suggestions later on about it. But this first presentation, I want to just say, cheating is bad economics, and I think you should make your students aware of how cheating is bad economics. Now, if your students don't see the value in good economics, perhaps they'll see the value in life. I'll tell you the story that my father told me about cheating that he learned from one of his dear friends who was a navigator in the Marines. The Marine flights, the bomber flights, always had a navigator on board. The navigator was tasked with mapping out the way that the bomber moved to the site and moved back to the ship deck to land. Those who were navigators were trained, and Dad's friend, who was named Fred English, told Daddy that there were people who were training in navigation school who cheated on their tests. And he made it clear that those guys didn't make it back. And the reason they didn't make it back is they didn't know what they were doing. But they didn't just cost their own lives. They cost the lives of every man on the plane. Now, you might have students say, yeah, but we're not doing anything that high stakes. Maybe not. Maybe you'll never have a situation where somebody whom you're depending upon for your life cheated to get the knowledge they claim to have that they don't. But we all know that we want people who know what they're doing, that didn't cheat their way through their training in order to gain their professional position. None of us really think cheating is okay. Even the person who was saying to these young men, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, didn't believe that cheating was okay. He just believed that him getting away with cheating was okay. He certainly didn't want the other side to get away with cheating. And no person that's ever cheated on a spouse has thought it's okay for the spouse to cheat as well. Set aside all the pan-amorous silliness that you might hear in the world. People don't like to be cheated on. People don't like to be cheated. And there's a reason why they don't. It's wrong. It's the ugly offspring of lying. And let's face it, the devil's the father of all lies, which means he's the grandpa of all cheating. That's all I have for today. In future episodes, I'll tell you about ways that I discouraged cheating and I dealt with cheating when I saw it happening or saw students heading in that direction. I hope you have a shiny and pleasant day for the rest of the day. I hope you see me again, you gorgeous people.